Norco wins a tight one, 21-20. Give me a thought on that one.
I expected Norco to win a little bit more handy, a little handy. It looked like their offense struggled to get going. I noticed they were, I think had no points at halftime and finally got things going. So, we know with Colton Gerhardt at quarterback, Todd Gerhardt and Alan Kruger, they've installed a new offense over the past couple of years, and it still looks like it's a work in progress. They have the new receivers, Cameron Hemmings and Marcus Jones, who are both eligible this year. So they're trying to get that passing game going. But I expect them to work out some of the kinks and get that offense going.
All right, we'll hold a couple surprises here for you. It looks like some of the usual suspects in the Big Eight. Normally, Roosevelt goes on the road in a tough inland division game. They lose to Charter Oak. That was one that I think you and I were kind of mentioning before sitting over here. It's like, I don't know how to feel about that one. I'm going to pick Roosevelt, but Charter Oak is one of those teams, right?
Yeah, I picked Charter Oak in this one mainly because Aaron Crone was out of that game. Even though I felt Brandon Rogers could capably hold his own as the quarterback, I just felt Crone's experience, having that many games under his belt, and him not being out there would be the difference.
Right. All right, let's talk about John W. North. 48-10. It probably could have been a lot worse. 41-41. I think it was 41-10 at the half. 6 touchdowns in the first half, basically, for Justin George. This team, if you've seen the footage, they look fast. They have big strike guys all over the place. How good can this team be?
They could be right up there with some of the best. Whether that they can challenge for the league championship. No, I don't know if they're quite there yet. But I talked to Coach Paredes earlier in the week. He loves his individually. Very excited about his team. His whole thing is, can they all come together and play as a unit? And a good start there against Colton. And like you said, Justin Georgie, a great all-around athlete. He was on the championship baseball team. He goes out there. He's got Aaron Peck, Garrett Biggers, Denzel Myers. That offense is extremely explosive.
All right. I was blown away at how much speed they had, and they just seemed to be all over the place, breaking plays and scoring at will against Colton. Colton, of course, is in sort of a little bit of disarray, but this is a team that won a championship a year ago.
Yeah, and you think of all the great North teams in the past, the 2001 and 2003 teams led by the Morton twins, and then the back-to-back championship teams in the mid-2000s led by James Calhoun and company. This is a team athletically that could be on par with some of those teams. Whether, like I said, can they put it all together and make a good run? We'll see.
All right, do we have the video from St. Bonnie ready to go, boys?
We should.
Okay.
We should. Not yet.
Make sure we turn Pep's microphone on. Right there. There's Pep Fernandez. Pep, good to have you here, man.
It's good to join the party. What's cracking in here, man? I'm missing all the good stuff.
I don't know that your mic's on, but we'll get there. Do we know about Santiago?
Santiago lost. I don't know what the score was.
Right.
But yeah,
They did lose.
That's tough one. Chino Hill's obviously a great program out there. Made it to the semifinals last year. Santiago dominated them last year, but as I've said in the past, Santiago just seems right now to have trouble putting back-to-back good games together, and it happens again after a great game against Dana Hills. They fall a little bit to Chino Hills.
Right. Okay. Let's go back to
1, 2, 3. Can we get some St. Bonaventure Centennial action? It was a great game out there. And it went late, EPJ knows. We were out there trying to chase down Huskies head coach Matt Logan after the game for a quick soundbite before trying to split out of there and make our deadlines.
Yeah, I was able to sneak in a couple coach phones. So yeah, we spoke with him. It was a tough loss. They were up at the break, second half. They started out with that great drive. They had a couple good plays, and then they turned it over. Yeah, I think that might have been the key to this game when you look at everything that was said and done. They're up 20-14. They have the ball to start the second half, and you get, I believe, going through my sheet here, a 24-yard run by Romello Goodman, and then I believe there was also a long pass play, a 37-yard pass from Hayden Gavitt to Isaac Crandall. Put them in great scoring position to take a kind of commanding lead. And then, Coach Logan said, bad play call on my part, tries to go for that quick slant over the middle. It gets intercepted. And, that kind of really
was the last time until late in the fourth quarter did we see Centennial's offense get going. So that seemed to be the point where Centennial kind of hit a wall. And as we saw in that third and fourth quarter, St. Bonaventure just running the ball down the throat of Centennial, something that they're not used to. That's what they do. And, they kind of had the tables turned on them.
And how about after the Seraphs' last touchdown, they went for the 2-point conversion. They got it. They made it a 9-point game. So Centennial needed 2 possessions to get back in this.
Yeah, that was a really gutsy call. They go up 27-20. They could take the extra point, make it an 8-point game, force Centennial to go for a 2-point conversion if they get it. If they miss it, I have a feeling Centennial goes for the 2-point conversion with a chance to win. And a great play call on that reverse. And like they said, they wanted to put all the pressure. I talked to Coach Todd Therian after the game. They wanted to put all the pressure on Centennial and say, you're going to have to score twice to beat us. Right. And they figured they couldn't do that.
Here we go, gentlemen. Let's go to it.
We have it, St. Bonnie and Centennial tonight. Here they come, the Huskies. Matt Logan and his crew coming out to the game. But first drive of the game for the Seraphs, that's Mark Evans to Jordan Ferris for the touchdown. And the Seraphs go up early 7-zip. Still in the first quarter, quarterback Hayden Gavitt on the keeper here. Great look at the referee. There's Gavitt, 7-7 now. Later in the first quarter, St. B back in action. Zach Green, touchdown run here for St. Bonaventure. They go up by a score of 14-7. So now we move to the second quarter. Back and forth we go. Romello Goodman gets in. He makes it 14-14 on that touchdown for the Huskies. Still later in the second quarter. How about some Centennial defense? King Battles his name. That's the sack there for Centennial.
What a name.
I know, it's a perfect football name. Later in the second quarter, Gavitt to Isaac Crandall. 20-14 at the half. Centennial up. Now we move to the third quarter. Centennial, more defense. Milo Jordan trips up the quarterback, and he's got the sack, and he's also pumped up about it. Later in the third, though, the Seraphs march down. They cap it off. Sean Wick, the touchdown run. They go up 21-20 after the point after. To the fourth quarter now. St. B's, Evans, the touchdown pass. The Seraphs add the 2-point conversion coming up. Here it is on the reverse. Ferris takes it in, and St. Bonaventure goes up 29-20. Centennial, though, not giving up. Less than 3 minutes to play. Hayden Gavitt to Giles Guy Williams. That makes it 29-27, but St. Bonaventure gets the ball back. Victory formation, and it's over. They eat up the clock, and that's it. St. Bonaventure defeats Centennial by a final score of 29-27. We caught up with Centennial head coach Matt Logan after the game. We're going to hear from him in just a second, but Matt Logan after the game, very gracious about the defeat tonight against St. Bonaventure, but easily his Centennial squad could have came away with a victory tonight. What do you say, EPJ?
Yeah, I mean, they had many chances, and if you look throughout this game, as we kind of noticed with a lot of stoppages and kind of pushing the time on our deadlines, as you kind of mentioned, how many penalties Centennial had tonight? Well, that was 16 of them for 130 yards, 8 of them alone, false start calls on their offensive line. And this is supposed to be the experienced veteran offensive line. What was supposed to carry that offense, 4 offensive linemen, and they got called for 8 false starts tonight. It just kind of every time they kept moving forward, they moved back, step back here, and it made their job difficult. In one particular play, they were going to go for a 4th and 4 on one drive, and they got called for the false start, ended up having to punt, and 4 yards for Centennial isn't that much. They get that drive, they can score another touchdown, and they might be able to take real control of that game in the first half, but just way too many mistakes for Centennial today.
Now, false starts were a factor. I don't know if this was or not because it kind of went both ways, but the leg cramps. There must have been at least half a dozen guys going down with leg cramps, and I know there was several from Centennial, several key guys who.
Milo Jordan being the biggest one. Missed much of the third quarter, and I asked both coaches. Last year Centennial routed so many teams that their players did not have to play many fourth quarters, and in many cases did not have to play much of the third quarter. So I asked Coach Todd Therian if he believed that was a factor today. The fact that most of Centennial's roster has only had to play one game over the past 2 years where they've had to go all 4 quarters, and they lost that one game to Palo Alto, and now they lose today. And he said, I believe it has to be a factor. They're just not used to that kind of, endurance out there. And, as we saw, Milo Jordan out. Isaac Kalunga, he was kind of a little dinged up going into the game. He didn't play much of the second half, so that's their best defensive back. So we saw some key players. One of Centennial's offensive linemen ended up getting hurt. So, a lot of things Centennial has to improve now, but we say, are they too far off? You can't say so. They only lost by 2 points, the number 5 ranked team in the state. So I think they're definitely still a quality team. And
where they go next? I think it's Mater Dei next week.
They have to go they have to go at Mater Dei. And that'll be, a tough matchup, But, I was really impressed, except for the one pass from Hayden Gavitt that got intercepted.
Yeah.
He definitely showed, some good poise in his first start, completing 16 of 25 passes for 151 yards and also rushing for 51 yards. Romello Goodman rushes for 191 yards. But, defensively, Centennial's got to improve. They have some standouts over there with Milo Jordan, Nada Tui Alamaka, and some of these other guys that are returners. They gave up 400 yards, and they pretty much in the second half were dominated.